Hey everybody, in today's episode, it's myself, Dominic Scalzo, and Benjamin B makes an appearance about halfway through the episode. In today's episode, we're getting into health and fitness and why it is so important when you are getting sober. Dom goes into detail on a race that he recently competed in that was rather grueling and the lessons that he took from that. We talk about the importance of being in the right mindset when doing these sorts of feats, like this race that he did, how failing isn't necessarily a bad thing, and what you hope to take from your failures. We talk about the importance of just getting involved with fitness on a very basic level. We talk about basic nutrition, how to implement these things if you're new in sobriety. And we talk about a ton of good stuff. Enjoy the show. Here we are, Real Recovery Talk. I am your host, Tom Conrad. In today's episode, we've got Dominic Scalzo.
Hello.
What's up, Dom?
Chilling, man.
First things first, thank you for tuning in on the podcast app, whichever one that you choose to use, and thank you for watching on YouTube. In the end, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you can always reach us, info@realrecoverytalk.com. Again, that's info@realrecoverytalk.com. And ultimately, we want to help you turn your mess into your message, right, Dom?
Right.
Also, go to Real Recovery Talk, and on the homepage, you're going to see a little link that says schedule a call. Click that, and you can schedule your free 10-minute call with either myself, Ben, or Dr. Tambini, and we can go over your current situation, see if we can assist in any way. You can also go to realrecoverytalk.com/guides, GUIDES. We have a cool catalog of guides. Scan through them, put your email in, download the guide that you want, and fill it out. And if the guide leaves you confused, go back to the homepage and click schedule a call, and then we'll go over that assessment with you. I say guides, but they're really assessments of sorts. And also, you can go to Facebook and join the Sobriety Network. That's on Facebook. Just go there, type in the Sobriety Network. It is our town hall of addiction services, if you will. If you've ever been impacted by addiction, whether it's for yourself or a loved one, we want to invite you there. That's on Facebook at the Sobriety Network. All you have to do is answer a couple questions, and we're going to let you in. It's open to absolutely everybody. We have addicts in there and people in long-term recovery. We have family members in there that have navigated their loved one through addiction. So it's a good place for you to be. And last but not least, go to realrecoverytalk.com/services. If you would like to schedule a call with myself, Ben, or Tambini, a full hour. So that's different than what you would get on the homepage. This is a full hour of our undivided attention, and we could talk to you about whatever it is that you want. And you go to realrecoverytalk.com/services to sign up there. What's up, Dom?
Chilling, man.
How you doing?
It's good, man. Nice intro.
Thank you.
No problem.
So you were on the podcast. You know me, unprepared. I don't even know where my phone is.
It's on the floor down there.
Oh, it's on the floor.
It's probably like a year ago.
Yeah, a year ago.
A little under that, we'll say.
So if you didn't hear that episode, go back and find it. I don't know what episode number it is, but you can go find it. Dom, you have a hell of a story. I don't want to go, we could talk a little bit about that, but I want to get more up where things are at with you today. And, talk about a couple of things that I've seen you doing on Instagram. And I have something in my head, and I didn't tell you this before, and I'm not going to tell you now, but we'll get to that point. But what's new with you? Tell us about the Leadville that you ran.
Yeah, man. I mean, so much has happened since I've been here last. I guess last time we spoke, I just finished a 50-mile race, and that was hell. And I was in a chill period before we started to ramp up for Leadville. So Leadville, for anyone that doesn't know, Leadville 100, it's a 100-mile race in Leadville, Colorado, starting at 11,000 feet in elevation. And you go up and down. There's like a 15,000-foot gain, 15,000-foot loss. It's nasty. It is nasty. And you have to do it under 30 hours. If you are not meeting the requirements of it, at each rest stop, you get cut. And we can talk about it, went through it, but it's 100% like the hardest thing I've done. Obviously I've been through detox and stuff. It resembled a lot of moments like that. I did a training camp 2 months before it, leading up to it was like 3 days, and that was almost worse than the beginning or like the actual race, only because I don't want to say I went in with like an ego, but like it was more like, hey, I don't really want to run anymore, and I just don't care what happens. And I don't believe in not that I don't believe in altitude sickness, but I was like, altitude sickness won't affect me. The typical drug addict mentality, right?
Yeah, like I can beat it.
It just won't. No, it won't. It's gonna pass me. Go to Tom. Like it'll pass. Yeah. It'll go to someone else. It's just gonna bounce off me.
Did it affect you?
Man, I got sick. So I remember they had on this 3-day camp. This was in June. The race is in August, right? So we had like a month in between. And I got there on Friday. I flew into Colorado on Thursday. I had my son, and so I couldn't get there till Thursday. The camp started Friday night. It was a 9 p.m. like basically a half marathon run through the wilderness in the pitch black. There's no lights. Like you have your headlamp. My headlamp died. There was some hail happening, rain. Rain the whole time. And I mean, it was craziness. But I got there. I was like, I feel pretty good. And then my heart rate started going, and like they gave us a speech about altitude sickness. I was like, well, I don't need to really listen to this. I don't think it's gonna affect me. Like that is exactly what happened in my brain. I was just me talking to myself saying that. And they had a doctor up there talking about this. Like it was real, but like I just could not. I was just being stubborn, man, being an addict. And I got through, and like I was just like I didn't experience the sickness. I just got. I mean, it was like 9 p.m. to like midnight, right? We run in the rain, we get cold, it's freezing, different temperature than Florida, right? I mean, this was in June. Florida in June is crazy. In Colorado, it's like some in the morning, it's like 40, 50. Then it's like 60 by like mid morning, and then it's like 70, which is like kind of like 80 degrees when you're that high up in the mountain, and then it goes back down. It's like all constant up and down. And so by the time that the night was over with, I was coughing. I was like choking on like my mucus, you know? And I go to bed at like 1. We had to get up at 7 to go to breakfast to go run 25 miles, you know? And as I wake up, I got a headache. I'm starting to feel not amazing. And what I find out later is this is like the start of altitude sickness. And so I wake up, we go get breakfast. I'm like eating slow, which is not normal for like really slow, like very, very slow. I couldn't even chew. And we start running. Man, it took me like an hour and 15 minutes to run 4 miles. And cause like a lot of it's walking. Cause like, I mean, this is like a steep hike. And, but even that, like that was really long, like compared to a lot of other people. And as we get up, I'm like, my stomach was queasy. I was like, I think I got to go to the bathroom. Like I'm not a wilderness guy, right? I'm not a runner. I don't know. I've never experienced having to go to the bathroom in the forest. Right. And so I'm not prepared for this.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, hey, like, Tom, what do I do? Like, there's a guy running next to me, and he's like, just use your wipes. I'm like, what wipes, dude? What are you talking about? Like a leaf? Like, and he's like, I got you. So he gave me like my necessities, right? And like I was very sick, and it was like the guy like kind of saved me. So after that, after I let all my bowels out of my body off the mountain, I felt amazing, and I was like, oh, altitude sickness, what even is that? Like I was just sick from like maybe I ingested the wrong carbs at the wrong time, and like trying to justify it, man.
Yeah.
I'm like recording videos. I'm on FaceTime with my girlfriend, and I'm like, I'm good. I'm happy. Like this is great. It was wild. And then, so it's like 25 we'll just call it 25 miles that we were running. It was 25 point something. And we get through checkpoints, and it's getting it's going up and down. It's getting kind of dark, or not dark, but like dark in here. And all of a sudden we're on like this road, and we hit a checkpoint. And then from that checkpoint, this was like 9 or 10 miles. We don't see the next one, which I thought I was told it was at 15 miles. But there's like a long interstate, and it's like a stereotypical like movie where you're just like, you see a guy running or a woman running, and there's like open road and mountains, no cars, like no one's there. I am legit by myself in this wilderness, and I'm like walking, okay, and it's all flat. Like I could run, but I was just like, man, this sucks. And I get around the bend, I get to like 15 miles. And I'm like, where's the rest? Like, where is this? Like, I need to fill up. I need some things. I'm kind of around people, but not really. Some woman comes up and passes me. She's like, oh, 16-mile mark. We'll get the rest. And I was like, oh, 16 miles. Okay. We get to 16. I'm just walking now. And 16 hits and there's no one's there. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Maybe my watch is off. I didn't know. And like 16.4 hits. And I start to like not remember things. I didn't know. I was like, where am I? Like I turned around. It was really cloudy. And my brain was really cloudy. And then I like turned to the bush and I start puking. And like I didn't have a feeling of it. It just started happening. And then I came back and I saw this woman riding her bike towards me. And so there's this woman here. Her name's Christine. She's been sober for a long time. She used to come to my meetings back in the day. And I've just known her forever. I mean, she had like 20 years, like 8-9 years ago. Like she's been sober for ages. And I see Christine riding this bike towards me. And I'm like, Christine, what are you doing here?
Oh my God.
And like Christine like surfs in Costa Rica. She does all this crazy. I was like, oh, it's like, this is not that crazy to me, but it kind of is. And she's like, oh, hey, where you coming from? And I'm like, what a stupid question is that? Back there. And she's like, okay, we'll come back. And she was asking me some other questions. I don't really remember some of those questions. I just remember the beginning and the end. And I guess I threw up again. And she was like, where are you coming from? And like it all like settled. And I was like, Florida. And she's like, there you are. Okay. Like the rest stops right up here. Got a little bit longer. Let's go sit. We'll get some food, some salt in you, and like see how you're feeling. I got over there and I like collapsed on the chair. And she was like, listen, do you want to finish this? Like I'm at mile 17. We're going to basically almost 26 miles. Like, I mean, I don't remember the time, but like it's later in the day. It's like 4 p.m. Like I've been running since 7 a.m. It's not that far to be running for that long. So I was struggling and I was the last person there. There's some people at the rest stop, but I was in last that day and I was dying, man. And she was like, listen, you have to run like 26 miles tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Why don't we bring you down the mountain? I think you're experiencing altitude sickness and maybe some other stuff, but whatever. Let's get you down, get you lower elevation and just get you some sleep, some food, and we'll start up tomorrow so you can run tomorrow. And I was like, okay, I just want to finish the weekend. Like I want to run tomorrow, whatever. I left there and I got sicker by like the second. It was like as you like one day at a time, 1 minute at a time, every minute in that day, I got more sick. And I got back to we were saying like a hotel thing. It's an Airbnb, but it's a hotel. And I'm puking. I'm trying to sleep. I get the cold chills. I'm just so sick, and it's just never ending. My buddy comes back, Tyler, who is running the race with me. He's doing the camp, and he's like, "Man, you don't look good." I was like, "Dude, I don't feel good. I feel terrible." And we walked a little bit. We had like an event that night to go and like sit, like we get like catered food. And I was like, dude, that is literally the last place I want to be. But I went, I'm like getting cold chills sitting there. I definitely had like a COVID of some nature, or maybe that was just the altitude sickness, but I was getting sick. And that night comes up and I am sleeping 20 minutes on, like 40 minutes off every hour on the hour. I just can't sleep. I'm barely sleep. I'm like, when you sleep and you're like, you're still basically awake, but you're kind of asleep. That was like my state all night. I puked again. I woke up I got out of bed at like 5, and then Tyler got up a little bit later and he was like Tyler's a tough dude, right? And Tyler, like, he's like, yeah, like, we both ran on like broken bodies, right? In that 50-mile race. And he would always be like, dude, just suck it up and go run. And so I'm expecting him to be like, dude, suck it up. But I'm like, dude, I really don't want to run. Like, I feel bad. And he's like, hey man, maybe don't run today. And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, I don't think you should. And so for him saying that is different than anyone else telling me that. Right. I'm like, damn, something's like actually wrong. Like he sees it. And I'm like, let's go see this woman that looks like Christine. And she was like, she's the director, right? So she was the director of the whole race. She was trying to get everyone in that day.
So Christine was real, just it was a different.
It just wasn't Christine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Sorry. So that was real. And so I go see her and she's like, you shouldn't run. And I get like all the emotion that I was feeling inside. I start letting it out. I'm crying. I'm like, man, I don't know what's going on. Like, I feel bad. Like, I don't want to run, but like, I want to run. I want to do this. Like, I have to do this race. Like, this is coming up. I need to do this. She's like, you're not going to get anything out of running today. Like, you're going to get worse. She's like, why don't we take your pulse ox and see like where you're at, and then we can kind of go from there. Like, if you're like at like, so a pulse ox, you're at like 99, 98 most days. Most people are around that. Like, let's say above 97, right? And so if I'm like in the 90s, like maybe I can run. Maybe it's not as bad as it seems. And she took it. It was like 78. And she's like, she's like, you gotta get to lower elevation. You gotta blah, 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 blah. And so I'm trying to, but like Tyler's going to run. I have a car. I can't drive this car. And I'm just going to try to go to bed. And so I went back to the room. I went to sleep for a little while. I'm done being sick, but like, I'm not okay. I try to get some food. I still don't feel okay. I can't eat anything. And then like the day's wrapping up and I'm like, I got to make my way to Denver, which is like a 2.5 hour drive or 2 hour drive, but it was like traffic time. So as you're going to Denver, you start to go to lower elevation. And so as I'm driving towards it, I start to feel a little bit better. The traffic was like 2.5 hours that day. And then it was like 3 hours and 17 minutes or something like that. And I saw it change on my GPS, and like, there's no service in the mountains. I don't listen to music anyways, but like my phone doesn't even work. And in this moment, I'm feeling very sad, dark, mad. I'm in like that addiction feel, right? And I'm not doing hot. I'm not doing well. And I'm having negative thought, like dark thoughts. And all of a sudden the GPS reroutes me up this mountain that you can only go 20 miles an hour. And it's like this big circle just going up. And I feel like I had to go up to like 17,000 feet. My ears were popping. Like it was like I was feeling better. And then all of a sudden I started to get sick again. And I got to this mountain just to go down it, to get around, just to like beat the traffic. And I got down just enough time because like I was spacing out when I was driving. Like it was dangerous, man. And Colorado driving is hard to begin with. And it got sketchy. But I made my way to the airport, and like it was a little seamless, like kind of crazy. But at this point, I'm finally at lower elevation. I feel better. I'm like, okay, so I've definitely been dealing with elevation sickness like that, or altitude sickness. This is real. Let's get some food. I feel hungry right now. I'm not feeling like nauseous. And like I see a Pizza Hut and I'm like,
oh God.
I'm like, I could eat pizza, right? Like I could eat that. Like I needed something easy. I couldn't eat something like healthy. I just like Pizza Hut sounded like just simple, you know?
Grease, cheese.
Right. Like I mean, think of like hangover days, right?
Yeah,
That made you feel good. Like I felt terrible. I was like, my body wants this. Like whatever. Didn't want anything all day. Bro, it's 7:58. The Pizza Hut closes at 8. I didn't know this, and they start closing the gates. And I get closer. I'm like, are they closing the gates? It's 8 o'clock. The gates are closed. Bro, I fall to my knees, and I'm like, oh my God. I was like, please, let something go my way right now. Just go my way. Like it wasn't a prayer, right? It was just me. Like I was defeated, man. I was completely defeated. And then all of a sudden, this angel walks by me. It's a Pizza Hut worker holding 4 or 5 boxes of pizza. And I was like, bro, can I buy it? I'll give you $100 for that pizza. And he was like, dude, just take it. And I was like, oh my God. He gave me like, I think it was like 4 pizzas. He gave one to another lady. I ate all of them instantly. Like, remember I was saying I couldn't eat? Like I housed it.
You ate 3 pizzas?
I think it was 4, or like it was like 3.5. Like I almost finished all of them. I had like 1 or 2 slices left. I mean, and they were like the little, like the personal pizzas. Like it was
okay, yeah.
Like when you go to the Pizza Hut, like the Target, like those.
Right.
It was like those pizzas.
Okay.
And I downed them, and I was like, okay, I'm good.
I want to go run.
Yeah, like let's go back. And I catch the plane to Fort Lauderdale. catch some kind of virus on the plane. I can't sleep on the plane. I start to get just as sick as when I left. I start shaking. And like, listen, like I don't get sick often, like really rare. And from this point, it was like I was withdrawing. Like I was shaking like I came into the room, like when I came into rehab, and I'm shaking all night. I can't sleep. And you're on a plane, right? And so all I'm thinking, like a typical junkie, right? I'm walking to get my bag and like, I'm in Fort Lauderdale. A lot of drug addicts pass through here. I'm like, I don't want to get the police to come get me over the side. Like I'm thinking everyone's watching me. I felt so bad and just very negative. And from that day on, I got bronchitis, pneumonia, COVID. Like the whole month of June to July, I was just completely sick and like not really able to train for this race at all. And yeah, I mean, it was life changing, just that.
So I want to unpack just a couple of things that you said inside there that I think correlate with addiction in and of itself. The first thing being what you said, this attitude that you had around altitude sickness.
Yeah.
That like, it's not gonna, like, I'm immune to this. It's not gonna get me. I mean, how often we hear that's just the same as having substantial amount of sobriety time and then, thinking, well, you know what? One beer ain't going to hurt.
Yeah.
It'll be okay.
Or I don't need meetings.
Yeah.
I don't need the steps like that.
I wanted to ask you this though. What made you want, because you're not and I've known you and I know you're not a runner. I know that in your previous episode, you discussed, I mean, you were heavy.
Yeah.
How much did you weigh at your peak?
So I always just say 270 because it's an easier number. It was like 267, but just call it 270.
And how long ago was that?
12 years ago.
And so, you get sober, and oftentimes people want to change everything about themselves. One of those being, their health, and which is good, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And you've obviously gravitated towards the fitness space and have done very well for yourself there. But you're not a runner. That's not something that you ever enjoyed. What the hell makes you want to undertake something like this? Whether it's Leadville or the 50-mile race, yeah. I'm not even talking about those in particular, the actual races, but just running in general, and then to that level, like what goes through your head to make you want to do that?
I mean, so I can kind of unpack that a little bit, but initially it's like I wanted to do this because I wanted to see how broken I can get to come back, right? Like I've been broken, I've come back from it, right? Like that's addiction and getting sober and going through this. Like I'll have 12 years next week, right? And so and like that's that story, right? And so that's kind of the same thing, and it's also like, okay, it's just in a different way, so that was like the forefront of my mind. But unpacking that, right, which I haven't really done, but like I never did before, but I've since the race, and actually walking down this mountain when I did the race, I was unpacking a lot of things. And one of those things is like, I really like to challenge myself, and if I can overcome it, awesome. If I can't, you honestly, like doing it and achieving it is great. It's amazing, but failing is better. Like in my eyes, failing is better in this regard of like a fitness feat or whatever it is, or like a goal like that, because you learn so much. I have learned more about myself just training for this race and doing the race than I have. And like, so I only trained for like 11 months leading up to this race. I learned more about myself in this 11 months than I did almost this whole time. Like it was like a beginning of sobriety when you refine yourself. I'm like, oh, because I'm a new person, right? And so I've learned more about my new self than I even realized I had. Like it was all hidden under there, and new character defects or building on some old ones in a new way, in a sober way. And so I mean, man, I failing this challenge. So like to fast forward, I didn't finish this race. I got cut out, time capped. And in that set, I failed this goal, and I learned way more about myself trying to do this goal. And so that doing hard things allows you to find out a little bit more about yourself, is what I've come to find.
Friend of mine, Eric, he does a lot of reels and stuff with us. He recently did a reel on, if you have 2, 3, 5, 10 years of sobriety, whatever, doesn't matter. And you go out and you drink for a day or two or even a week. Yes, it's a relapse, but you didn't lose that time.
Right.
All
you learned.
Right. And I talk about this often, and I didn't make this up. I didn't coin this. Somebody did, but failing forward, figuring out, even and keeping it within addiction, there's stuff to learn throughout a relapse.
Yeah.
I've never relapsed. I've tried stopping drinking and drugging numerous times, and was unable to, but I would never consider that a relapse because I was never in recovery. But, when people do relapse, I encourage them, you gotta unpack this,
right,
and figure out what went wrong, because there's always a pre-lapse.
Always.
Where did things start to go wrong? And it sounds like that's kind of what you got to do through the. So you ended up, you flew back, you were in Fort Lauderdale, you were in Palm Beach County for,
we'll call it a month and a few days, a few weeks.
And then you fly back.
So before that, right, this is a monumental part of this journey for this race. I don't want to run. Now I'm not sick, right? I've been sick for 5 weeks out of this month or whatever. It was a lot. I've never been sick more in my life. Probably in the last 12 years, I got more sick in this month than I have in all 12 years. It was insane. And I'm negative. I'm dark. All I want to do is say screw running. I just want to lift. And I keep skipping runs. I do 1 or 2 here, and I just do maybe the long run, or I skip the long run, whatever. But every Saturday was a long run, or every Friday was a long run because I had to shift my schedule. But I would choose to do it on a treadmill and just at the gym and just look at nothing and just run.
For how long?
At the minimum 3.5 hours, up to 5.
3.5 hours?
Yeah.
How many miles is that?
It was just doing it for time. So some of it, I got up to 26, 27. I think one was maybe to 28 miles at the most. Because you're not running fast, you're just cruising, just trying to sustain on there. And then sometimes I would stop and I wouldn't stop. I would build the incline and just walk, because that's what we were told to help with the elevation. Learn how to walk on a 15% gradient, which is
that's hard.
You're not running up it.
No,
it's crazy. So that's what I would do for 5 hours. And then the next day would be a 4-hour run. And so we'd overall I built up a 9.5 hour. I think I did 5 one day, 4.5 the next day. And then that was deload week leading up. That was the last week. So one of these weeks, I keep going in. I'm just going to do an hour of this 3-hour run. Okay. I get an hour done. I'm all right, I'm going to do another hour. Okay, I'm gonna go pee and I'm gonna do another, and that's how I was getting through it. But I hated every second of it, and I was so mad. It was I was swearing at everyone. It's my choice, right? But I'm screw you. It's everyone's fault. I was just, I was not in a good space. And some guy, so there's a 17-year-old kid visiting his uncle who worked at the gym I go to, and I didn't know it at the time, and he was squatting some big weight, and he looked like a baby. And I was hey, you need a spot? You good? You okay? He's yeah, can you? And I was
the 17-year-old.
17-year-old. His name is Dom, which is just funny.
Yeah.
And I was dude, you're good for you, man. You're 17, you're hitting 385 for an easy 5. I was five by 5, not even just 5 reps. I was you look great. Good for you, man. And he was thank you so much. I was yeah, keep it up, dude. And that got me jacked up, and whatever. That was one. It was on a Thursday, I think, and then Friday is the next day. I'm running. I'm running for a little bit, And Dom walks over to me. He's like, "Hey man, you mind if I talk to you?" And I'm like, and I'm mad, right? Because I'm running. And I'm like, "Sure, man. Sure. What's up?" He's like, "I just got to talk to you about some things." And like, I'm barely met this kid. Like I spotted him and we talked, like, you know how that goes to the gym, a new
Right.
kid.
Yeah.
That's the amount of conversation we've had. And then I moved on to my exercise. He moved on to his. And I didn't see him till the next day. And he's like, "How long are you gonna be on that?" I was like, "Another like 4 hours, bro, or whatever, however long." It was just a long time. And he was like, "Oh, like why?" And I explained what it was. And he's like, "Holy crap." He's like, "Yeah, let me talk to you." And so he's like, "You mind if I walk with you?" And I was like, "Dude, no." And so I like go into a walk mode on the incline and he starts walking and we do this. And he's like, "Hey man, like, I want to be like you." And I'm like, "What the fuck? Like, what do you mean?" I was like, "No, you don't." And like, "You want to be like me?"
You
And like,
gotta start shooting heroin.
right. And so, and again, I'm in a bad place. So of course I'm like, no, you fucking don't. You don't want to be like me. And he was like, "Man, like your look, I want to look like you. I want to do what you do. I want to," and he just starts like building me up. Like it wasn't hitting my ego at all. I was so mad he was saying this, but I wasn't, right? Like my heart was filled with joy, but like my brain was fighting it, you know? And cause I was like, no, I gotta be angry at life. And he kept talking. And then I wanted to be like, "Dude, you don't want to be like me." And right before I said it, he was like, "Yeah, man, like I'm 17. I stopped. I'm an alcoholic. I'm a drug addict. I haven't used in like a year." He's like, and right when he said that, I was like, "Wait, what?" I was like, "You're a drug addict?" I was like, "Fuck yeah." And he's like, "Yeah, man." I was like, "Oh, do you do like 12 steps?" He was like, "What's that?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" Like it just like I'm so immersed in it. I'm like, "What do you mean?" Like everyone knows what that is, but like that's not true, you know. And he's also 17, so he's just been sober by himself for a year. And we start talking. Like I'm like, "Dude, I'm sober," and he's like, "No way." And he's like, I was like, "Yeah, I'm like for a while now." And we started talking. I explained the 12 steps, and it just turned into this beautiful conversation. And everything I was feeling inside my body was gone, and I just felt love and just all this emotion, and it was incredible. I have chills because it was beautiful, dude. And he walked. I ran for the whole rest of the time, and we just talked, and I was like, "Dude," I was like, "Dom, you changed my life today." And he was like, "What?" I was like, "Thank you." And he didn't understand. I didn't explain it, and he walked away, and that was it. And I haven't seen him. Like, he moved back, or he went back to Iowa. And that moment on, I think I had like 20 minutes left of my run when we left. I looked at the thing. I was like, I can do fucking anything. And from that point on, I was like, I will finish this race. My mindset changed. I couldn't wait to run the next day. I was excited. I was stoked. I could not wait. And leading up into the race, I was like, let's go. And so that was just a few weeks later. And I was ready, you know, until I wasn't.
So go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, and so coming back to everything, and something I realized in that moment, and realizing that I didn't realize this by myself. My girlfriend and I talked a lot about this, and she was like, "I think you really like people." And I was like, "Yeah, of course." Like, what a stupid thing to say. And then I like sat and thought about it. I just, back to like the rooms, right? And like, you need others. You need a community. You can't be by yourself. I've been by myself. Like I've been being by myself with these runs, with all these things. And like, I don't like running, right? I didn't like to get sober. What do I do to help me get sober is be with more people. And like spirituality is huge also, but for me, I need also others around me. Like spirituality is incredible for going through the steps and going through sobriety, but people is like God. People is like right here for me. I need it. I need them both, synchronicity. And I didn't realize that to that degree. And I kind of knew it when I moved back to Florida, but like this really opened up. And so when I went on this race, I started meeting, I was like, the only thing I care about in this race is meeting people and talking to people as I'm running. Because we're running not fast, but like we can run to where we're having a conversation. And the first guy I met, been sober for 4 years, and he was running next to me, and I was like, no way. And he was my boy for this whole run, and then, or for the beginning of the run, and then some woman had a seizure as she was running next to me, and we disappeared. I didn't see him again until the end of the race, where he actually finished it. I did not, and I got to scream and cheer and run after him, and he saw me, and he just took off to finish. It was sick. I got chills. Like he was struggling. It was this last like 1/10 of a mile, and he was like walking, and I was like, let's go. And we locked eyes, and he just ran. He ran so fast, like probably the fastest he ran that whole day. It was sick, dude. And we still keep in touch on Instagram. It's cool.
I mean, there's so many things to take away from that story. The one thing that I want to go back to is this kid that you ran into at the gym. I mean, that's God doing for you what you can't do for yourself.
100%, man.
You know, and the community aspect of it. Just, you never know. So I follow Patrick Bet David. He's down out of Fort Lauderdale. He's a big entrepreneur, ultra wealthy, just good guy. And he said something one time, and I don't know who he got it from, but he said, you're only one relationship away from your whole life changing. You know, and even though a 17-year-old doesn't, in the grand scheme of things, doesn't change your whole life, but what that instance did was it changed your mindset about this race, and you doing that race changed your mindset about life in general and the things that you took away from it, and the lessons that were learned throughout that whole process.
Right.
I mean, because that, from the time you decide to run Leadville to running Leadville, I mean, that's got to be months.
It's 11 months.
11 months of preparation.
Yeah. The race just got over, and we decided to do it. But we only ran 11 months because we had some other stuff. So we started in like September and then went until August.
Now, do you feel like you'll do it again?
So I got done. I was like, I'm never running again. And 2 weeks later, I started running again, a little bit. And I haven't really ran much. I mean, I probably ran 10 times since then. And I said I would probably do it again. I think me saying that, though, is more for like an ego. Like I want to just do it. I want to say I've done it and completed it. But this whole thing, I also want to show my son, like, no matter what, you fail, you can come back and do it again, right? And so my goal, like, I won't do it for at least 2 years from now. Like, I don't want anything to do with it. But I also want my son to be a little bit older and him to come with me. I think that would be incredible for him, for me.
So he's how old now?
He's 3.5. So like, at least up until like 6, 7, something like that, you know. And so whatever, if it comes about, awesome. I have some other goals that I put in my life right now that I just am attracted to, and I have never really been attracted to running at all, except for this stupid race.
The goals that you have now, are they fitness oriented?
Yeah, I have a bunch of goals in all aspects, but in this realm, talking about like the race and stuff, fitness related, I have some new goals that I am venturing into that I've never done before. And just,
can we talk about those?
Sure.
Yeah. What are they?
But I just, like, I'm in bodybuilding hard right now.
And, God, you and Ben.
I know.
Jeez Louise.
I am gonna try to do like a little prep thing for my just my coach and I, and just to see where I'm at. And I might try to do a show eventually and see. I don't know which division. I have no clue. But it's exciting. It's new, and I like it. It's a different change of pace. I mean, I've done everything.
Yeah, you were a regionals athlete, right, for CrossFit?
Yeah, I missed the games by 5 spots, so I almost made the games. I've been all over, but I've been doing CrossFit for 15 years. You know, so I was doing that for a long time, and then I got into drugs, so it was a little before my time, and then stopped, and then got it back when I got sober. But that took a lot of time and training, and this is just different. It's going to take a lot of time, but I'm just slowly building. I'm not trying to rush like I do everything else. I'm just going to slowly build to it and have fun with it, man. It's been cool. And so I'm hopefully going to do something in that world. But right now, like, my goal is to get into it full-fledged.
Speak of the devil, Ben, get in here. Ben B just joined us.
That's because I heard you talk about bodybuilding. Is that true?
Yeah. So, Dom was saying, because we talked about his whole experience with Leadville and everything, and we'll talk about all that later. But you just eat and we'll,
I'll
interject
chime
whenever
in.
you want. So you have a bodybuilding coach now?
Yeah.
Now, I've always wondered this. I know coaches need coaches, but like, enough about fitness and nutrition to, why do you feel like you need a coach?
So I don't, as of today, because I'm going through some like certifications in that world. It's just it's a little different. And
like NASM stuff?
No, like through body, like so I'm working with J3 University or J3 Coaching, and so J3 University has like learning how to be a coach in that world. Like, so I could coach Ben through his next contest, kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
And so
That's high level.
yeah,
Is it?
Those guys, like, I watch a YouTube, John Jewett. A lot of that stuff is like a little over my head.
yeah. So it's a
Okay.
lot.
It's
So
pretty advanced.
I know a ton. I know a lot of stuff. I've already dove high into the research on this, but I would rather learn from people that have been through this. Just like the AA, right? Like I'm not going to go like, oh, I know all this stuff. Like I'm going to ask my sponsor who's been through this a million times with a million guys. It's like, this guy's been through this and I'm going to learn through him, and I will pick up things, because also like I don't train people in that bodybuilding space to that level. Like I don't do contest stuff. I don't do anything. That's a whole different ballgame than just like, hey, let me give you a workout in Gold's Gym. That's easy. But when there's like theories behind it for the later, it's very different.
Do you feel like this is kind of another, so you go from like CrossFit and then you go on to running Leadville, and now we're at bodybuilding. So this will be like your venture for the next year or two, you feel like?
Yeah, that's my goal. So something that I'm really focusing on not doing though, is transforming my work. So what I mean by that is, when I was through CrossFit, I trained 60, 70 CrossFit athletes, like at one time. Like that's all I did was CrossFit. Anyone that didn't do CrossFit, I didn't really train. And then I was like, oh man, I kind of hate CrossFit. I want to do something else. And so I went to like the functional bodybuilding, which is where I've been at for a long time. And I want to stay in this realm where it's like you mix and match both. I have some people with some bodybuilding stuff, but I don't want to change my whole life of work for something that I'm passionate about anymore. Because if I become less passionate, I don't want to have a resentment towards these things. And I started to have resentments in the past as I've shifted through phases of life. So I don't know if I want to go full-fledged into training only bodybuilders, but if I have like one bodybuilder that I can help through this, which I have a female that I'm going to be helping a little bit as I go through this, that'll be fun to learn, just because I like to do things, like try things out with people, and she was like wanted to do it, and she's letting me allow like the new things I learned to help do it for her and like transform her body. She wants to do a show, so that'll be my one person I'm doing that with, and I'm going to stick to what I have been doing for the last 12 or 10 years.
You know what I think's applicable to recovery and anything in life is just continuing to grow, where like a lot of people, for instance, like I know they look at bodybuilding and they're like, oh, what could it be? Just picking up heavy stuff, putting it back down, and just eat a lot of food, and then you just don't eat a lot of food. But I think, like you mentioned the CrossFit, I imagine at this point you're basically like a subject matter expert on CrossFit. So a lot of passion too has to do with like continuing to grow and get more knowledge. It's not just physical, dude.
Right.
Because there's so much more for me to learn about bodybuilding specifically,
Right.
that I'm not tired of it.
Right.
Because I'm constantly like I just said, when I watched the John Jewett into the J3U on YouTube, some of that's still over my head, and I'm like, it's more than just physical.
For sure.
It's still challenging my mind. I'm still learning new things, and a lot of it's about problem solving too.
Yeah.
Like going back to the having a coach, just like having a sponsor.
Yeah.
Like, hey, it's like a regulator too, where like specifically with bodybuilding, and this applies to sobriety too, it's not coming quick enough. And then they stop you and they're like, no, this is the rate that it happens, dude. Be patient. Or vice versa.
Right.
you got people that come into recovery out the gate, dude, like all in, and you're like, slow down.
Yeah.
The same kind of thing, like,
Right.
and that leads to overtraining in the workout world, like.
Yeah.
So it's someone there it's constant problem solving and having someone there to kind of guide you. But all the principles apply, dude. And like
Totally.
I like how you're going from thing to thing, so to speak.
Yeah.
Because, dude, I'm sure y'all already talked about it, but I know you did some like 100-mile run in Colorado or something. I'm like, dude, this guy's nuts. Bro.
Well, and you know what else too? I like a lot of the physiological things in all of these, they all kind of overlap to some degree, a little bit. Not obviously not running and bodybuilding, but you need to learn what muscles do what to help grow them, shrink them down, to help make them stronger, help make them more flexible, whatever it might be. So like everything I learned in this, if I still have CrossFit athletes, which I do, and if I still have some just normal people trying to do everyday life, everything I learned here is still going to help all of them and probably even more. Like I honestly, like if I had some of this stuff for CrossFit, which was trying to like everyone like shunned, man, I would have been so much better. 100%. I would have less injury, which is...
It's like being open-minded to new concepts for recovery, too.
And what is funny is like none of this is new. It's super old. Like there's some new like angles and things like that, which that's not as important for this group, but it is for this. But like for me to know this, I don't need to teach you why this angle is important. If you ask, I can tell you. That's what I like. I want to be able to tell you all the why behind it. And if I don't know it, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna talk about it.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Well, and I think too, sticking with what you're doing, there's not many bodybuilders in the world. You know, there's not. I mean, there's a handful. If you look at the grand scheme of things in terms of fitness and stuff like that, bodybuilders are a very, very, very small fraction of people. So I think overall you wouldn't be able to impact as many lives.
Yeah.
And it's my own personal opinion. I think bodybuilding does, and I this is just my completely uneducated opinion, but I think bodybuilding, there's a lot more risk involved, and I think it's more harmful for people if you're not that special person. Like you understand the risk that you're undertaking versus the reward. Like Ben, I'll be honest, I thought this was like a phase for him, but this has been a long phase. You know, it's been like a 3-year thing for him, and he's in the right mindset. And I think it takes a very special person, because you are beating yourself up. I think you can develop a really unhealthy relationship with food and fitness versus, you know, and I'm not a fan of CrossFit anymore. I drank the juice years ago, 40 pounds ago, I equate it to when I was 185, Ben, you know, but it did a lot for me. It gave me a healthy relationship with exercise, with fitness. I think the community aspect of it is probably the most beneficial thing in terms of CrossFit, because now you're doing it with people, and like, you know, you got all walks of life inside of CrossFit, or, you know, these group classes and stuff like that. Bodybuilding's very isolated.
Well, let me play with that for a second, because I hear what you're saying, but you just compared two different things.
Yeah.
So CrossFit as a community aspect, there's a competition between you, but that's not competing in CrossFit. Bodybuilding, what you were talking about, is competing in bodybuilding. There's a ton of people that bodybuild that are just like,
you're right, yeah,
everyday Joe Schmo.
I see what you're saying.
And so the risk for a CrossFit competitor and a risk for bodybuilding competitor are super high.
Yeah,
for injury, for whatever, for eating disorders, for both. Like, I mean, there's in both worlds for sure. It's just maybe slightly different.
Got it. Yeah.
But from a community aspect, I think they're both super, like, you're just trying to move. You're trying to do it. Like, same with High Rocks. If you compete at High Rocks, it's the same. Every time you add the competition, the competing to it, the risk factor goes up.
Yeah.
So every more intense you have to be, the more strict you have to be, you are at more risk. So if you aren't competing in these things, there's no reason to add more risk. You can learn how to eat maybe somewhat similar. Like, you don't need to eat 6 meals a day. You could eat 3. Just I don't think you're going to be on that competitor stage if that's what you're trying to do. More likely than not, right?
Right.
And like for CrossFit, if like you want to be a carnivore, you don't want to eat carbs, you're not going to be super successful in the CrossFit space. It's not possible.
Right.
You need that. So it's just understanding that trying to be the athlete or like the everyday goer, there's very like risk for athlete is much higher than risk for community in both all things.
To piggyback on that too, I think there's an expiration date with all of these.
For sure.
For instance, like CrossFit, dude. I know if I did CrossFit today, I would end up hurt in no time. I'm just too. When I was 20, I would have been fine.
Yeah.
I'm at an age where I can't, dude. I can't do that kind of high intensity, high impact, I should call it.
Yeah.
You know, where like the bodybuilding too on top of it's funny because the reason I'm only joining now is I was running the adventure group this morning and I actually met David, the guy that runs it. He's the main surf instructor and we went surfing and this early this morning, dude. And I sacrificed like, dude, I was gassed.
Oh, I bet.
I'm still out of breath from surfing this morning. I'm like, and I'm looking at him, dude, like huffing and puffing. He's like, you all right? I'm like, this ain't working. So like, and I know, and it's funny because we started talking about it. I'm like, yeah, dude, this whole bodybuilding thing, I'm probably good for like another 3 years, maybe 5, dude. But you got to know when to call it quits too. If you run ultra marathons, how many of those can you do before your body is destroyed? Is it still benefiting your life, whether that's mentally, physically? That's what you got to look at. And then when the negatives start creeping in, that's when people got to know when to turn it off. Or like, I like what you're doing. I don't know if I missed the beginning of the conversation, so maybe you're doing it intentionally or unintentionally, but switching from thing to thing is healthy.
Yeah. Well, and also like maybe you don't get out of bodybuilding, right? Like it's just like toggle with it, but like you just change how you're going about it, right? Instead of going like your training changes. Maybe you do an intensive, like 2 intensive days in the whole month rather than twice a week or whatever it might be. Things change as you age. You can't go to that level, right? These guys, I mean, listen, ultramarathoners, I met a person that's done like 70 of them.
Get out.
Like that's crazy. And like that means like anything over a marathon. 70, anything over a marathon.
How are your like feet not destroyed? Like literally the bones and the cartilage.
And they probably are. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. Maybe he's super gifted and what he's done a lot. Maybe he's done a lot. I don't know him to that regard, but I was like, these are just people that I've run into.
There's anomalies out there, bro.
Right.
With everything.
But then you think about bodybuilding, Ronnie Coleman.
Destroyed.
Ruined.
You just said him when at the same exact moment came to my mind, Dorian Yates.
Yeah.
He did what Ronnie Coleman did in a different time. Both were huge mass monsters in bodybuilding. But right now, Dorian Yates is healthy, dude. He's like 60 years old.
Yeah, and he looks amazing.
Great shape. I'm pretty sure he does like yoga and meditation.
He rides bikes up. I watched I actually watched his documentary.
I did too. Yeah,
it's my cardio.
Okay.
I love it. It's great. But I mean, yeah, he looks great. And just again, Ronnie came in with injuries, left with more injuries, right? And so everyone has to understand there's a level of sacrifice if you want to go to the next level. And then when you're trying to get out of it, you just pick and choose your battles. Like you don't need to do this all. And like that was the big thing with what like working with functional bodybuilding is we got a lot of like retired athletes, retired CrossFitters or retired bodybuilders that wanted to get more functional. And so we're trying to find a bend or like that balance point where it's like, we're going to back squat today. This can be your hardest thing of the day, but it's going to be with tempo. Like the weight doesn't really matter. And then B through E is like, hey, if you want to go easier, it's easier. Like that's not how you train in CrossFit. That's not how you train in bodybuilding. But in this is how you train. So it's easier on your body. You're able to handle it. You do it 3 times a week, maybe 4. And so there's always ways to come and back. And I might come back to functional bodybuilding later. Who knows? I don't care.
Do you ever think about doing powerlifting?
A little bit. I am built well for
you're strong too, dude. I see your videos. I'm like, bro, you're strong.
But like, it doesn't excite me.
No,
I don't know. And like bodybuilding didn't really excite me either, but I'm trying, dude, posing. Come on, man. that's
Remember you were talking about it when I did it in Orlando?
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy. It's like a funny like anecdote for this. Like my coach is like, oh, just our first photos, like do like a front relax. I was like, a relaxed photo. And I was like, yeah, no problem. So I just took a photo just like this, like That's what I know front relaxed is. A front photo of me chilling. And
That's not what it is.
nah, man. You're like, you walk out, like it's basically like you're not flat, you're like activating. And I'm like, I go to do this. I'm like, my shoulder hurts. I'm like, this is
feel like you pull
I'm like,
things.
what is happening? It's really crazy. And that's not even like flexing. You're not flexing at all. Like you're just activating things.
There's nothing relaxed about a front relaxed
Man.
pose. It's the one where they come out before you have to stand a certain way and still present well. You can't just be up there with your shoulders hunched.
Yeah.
Before you start. But dude, remember you were talking about it where like, so we went up to Orlando for NCI.
Yeah.
Nutrition, what's it called?
Nutritional Coaching Institute.
Yeah, we went up there, and there's a gym up there called Iron Religion, and it's you been there?
No, it sounds sick,
dude. It's an awesome gym.
Yeah, you could tell in the names that things
it's a badass
cool.
gym.
That sounds amazing,
dude. It was so big. There's like a room for every body part.
Oh whoa!
And CrossFit and powerlifting.
Yeah.
But they had a posing room, and this was like I think I was 2 weeks out from my show, or like 18 days or something. And Tom walks in. I'm in a posing room, like because they got the lighting and the mirrors and all the cool stuff. And
like, I never seen that part of my back before.
Yeah, and Tom's like, "Dude, you so out of breath." Like I didn't understand what was so hard
because
about.
we did the workout before, which makes sense. You get pump or whatever, and then you go and pose. And like the workout he was doing, it's hypertrophy isolated. You're not really getting that big out of breath, I suppose. And then he's in the posing room, and I go and take a leak, and I come back, and he's like gassed, like gasping for breath and sweating, and I'm like,
it's nasty.
Holy cow! And not to mention, he's got his shorts hiked up, his butt cheeks are hanging out, and I'm like, okay, this is weird.
Yeah,
but you stuck around and watched.
Yeah, I did.
Stayed.
I'm like,
you're like this.
Yeah. So, but that's exciting, Dom. I think, so let me ask you this before we wrap up. Do you have any sort of pull or like calling to kind of help, with your sobriety journey and everything that you've learned over the years in terms of how health and fitness has impacted you in a sobriety sense and just overall life? Do you have any calling to like reach that community in any capacity?
Oh man. Yeah. That's funny that you asked that. So, we talked a few weeks ago, and I was like, man, I'm trying to figure out this Instagram thing. I'm going to try to do this again. And you're like, hey, just record yourself, do a video. And then I saw Ben doing it, and I'm like, oh, you guys are just doing it, right? And like, who cares what happens? So I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna do it. And it kind of like you sparked, like planted that seed. And also, all my bosses are like, hey, like, do this. This will help us, and whatever. And I've been wanting to, the race got in the way, and then I'm just using excuses, right? And so I'm like, I want to talk about sobriety. I want to get more people from sobriety or trying to get sober, whatever it is, to just like to train, to understand that you can live healthier lives. You don't have to be ripping monsters and smoking cigarettes like every 4 seconds, And so I'm making this stupid like reel every Friday, like Sober 60, and it's just like quick tips that could benefit anybody, but like I'm speaking to like a sober audience to see if I can get some more people just to come my way or just ask questions, But I mean, that's been a dream of mine. I wanted to open a gym 10 years ago for just sober people, which I was like, well, that's like a weird thing to do. You can't really do that. And then I expanded on it, and it's still a dream. So I would love to do more with it. I just haven't taken that step besides doing this Instagram thing.
You know what too, though, like on a level that can drive folks. We look at how many people have gotten into coaching, personal training that are in recovery. It's another form of service work.
For sure.
Essentially, you're helping somebody change their life. Like, so I was the epitome of a personal trainer. I did that before I got sober, dude. I was like banging dope in the bathroom and coming out and training. Like, warm up on the treadmill. I'll be back in a few minutes. And come out just lit.
Yeah.
But I had like a client, for instance, that lost 100 pounds over the course of, I forget how long we were working together. Super nice lady, dude. But like that feeling of helping somebody get there and the relationship that we had with each other. When she came, it was I training her? Yes. But we were like close.
Right.
We were like friends.
Well, you go
like
through
family.
hard times. That's just what it happens. Just like in rehab, it's what happens.
So it's essentially like another form of service work where you're helping people, and that same fulfillment, if you will. It's so important, man.
Well, and so blend them together. It's like there's nothing I want more than that. Truthfully, like I love it.
Let's do it. What do you think, Ben?
Oh, I don't know what you already talked about, but I told you on the phone before he came because I knew he was coming to podcast. Like I have some ideas.
It's an untapped. You know, there are gyms out there that like cater towards a sober community, which I think is great, but it's not tapped into in the way that it could be.
Yeah.
You know, it's not talked about near enough. I think that a lot of times when people enter into sobriety by way of 12-step program, it's just about putting down the drink and putting down the drug, working the 12 steps, which is great. You know, you gain a relationship with a higher power. You understand about character defects and shortcomings, and you help other people stop drinking and drugging, but there's not near enough light brought to overall health and wellness.
Dude, yeah.
I mean, the meeting before the meeting and the meeting after the meeting is filled with cigarettes and Folgers coffee.
Right.
You know, and that
Candy.
I think needs to change.
Then you go to, what's the place we go? Howley's afterwards.
Go to Howley's and suck down,
get egg
milkshake
whites.
and
No, nothing.
the milkshakes, the chicken tenders, their tuna melt or their patty melt. Bro,
Dude, their burger is like, that's my jam. There.
I'm not a big fan of their burger.
Love it.
You
You got to get it with frizzled onions.
Okay.
If you don't do that, then, and don't ever ask for the pickle.
Have you ever been to
The pickle's terrible. It's not
the
pickled,
worst.
bro.
It's not a pickle.
What is the deal?
The owner thinks the owner likes it, and that's the only thing that matters. Everyone has told them that it is not good.
It's like half pickled.
No, it's literally the
It's
worst
a cucumber
thing ever.
that got stuck in the middle.
Oh, it's the worst.
Oh, really?
Dude, I don't get it.
Yeah, but
I've
no,
never
like,
had it.
just like something that I'm very passionate about, and I don't know how to go about it yet. But like, man, I mean, you guys will remember this. Like, you get to rehab, you get a Publix, like here you get a Publix gift card, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, you have $50 for groceries. What do you buy? Honey buns. You buy like Jimmy Dean breakfast sandwiches. You buy whatever. Like, this is the cheapest, get the most bang for your buck. And do you feel good? Maybe for a second, you get a honey bun in you. You feel good. Like, you're not used to eating, so you're eating easy things. But man, if I could teach someone coming off the street, like, dude, you like ground beef and rice. Like, obviously, like, it doesn't have to be that, but like something simple. Like, and how do you cook it? Throw it on the pan. What do you mean? Like, put salt and pepper on it. It's done. Just let it cook until it's done. You can even overcook it and it still be okay. Like, you'll get the benefits of it.
It's overcooked. You just put chicken stock in it.
Right, whatever. But like, that would be a cool thing to like teach a class to a bunch of dudes and be like, this is what we're doing today. We're going to cook and we're going to learn what this would do for your body. And we're all going to eat this after. I'll eat yours, you eat mine. And like, we'll all we'll cook for somebody else and we'll learn why this thing is going to be better for us. And then you'll feel it. And then maybe we have a chef later cook for you, and you'll see a chef do it a different way. But like,
right,
just to understand like how simple that could be. You know what? $50, like, it's not going to give you a lot of healthier options, but like, it kind of can. Like, it doesn't have to be $80 meats.
That can go a long way.
The other thing too is because not like, for instance, people see what I eat, and I had a guy ask me 2 days ago. He texted me like, "Oh, what do you eat?" And I'm like, "Look, dude, I'm going to send you my plan, but don't do this. The only reason I'm sending it to you is so you can look at the types of food I'm eating."
Right.
But what I'm getting at is like, for instance, dude, there's foods that like it matters the way you prepare them too.
For sure.
Like, for instance, if I get pasta and load it up with Alfredo sauce, bro, like that went south, which is affordable.
Right.
But if I get pasta, which is cheap, drizzle a little olive oil on it, like, in portion control, it's interchangeable with rice.
Right.
So it's not like people have to be crazy about it like a bodybuilder is.
Oh, yeah.
But just learning to do it differently, even.
My biggest thing, which it should be for, I mean, a lot of people, we like keep it simple. It's like, just keep it simple. Like, what do you like that tastes good, that like is considered better for you than a honey bun? Okay, let me teach you how to make this. Like, let me teach you how to do this. And like, that's, I'm just so, I want to help in that way for some help, because fitness is amazing. It helps so much, but that was a missing link for me, is just when I added those two together, I was like, I'm a new person. because I also didn't like myself. I weighed 270 pounds. I was not happy. I never weighed that before. I was 180, 190 my whole life leading up to it. And then going to that, I'm like, I changed my diet. I worked out also, but I felt good. I felt really good in my body and my skin. I looked good. Like mentally, everything just felt good. Everything was clicking, right? And I quit smoking. I quit everything when I quit dope, but I was like, that's not realistic for everyone. But I'm like, if I can't quit cigarettes, if I can't say no to cigarettes, like I can't say no to dope, that's just how my brain works. I have to think like that in myself.
It's also small steps where like a good coach, a good sponsor, a good personal trainer will do something to get somebody engaged in something,
right,
where it's feasible for them.
Right.
Like, how do you hook them into enjoying it and being passionate about it versus like, hey, if you stick to this rigid plan in a year, people don't make it a year. So like, how do you take baby steps? It's the same as like, I know, because sometimes, dude, we have a ton of recovery and knowledge. I got the big book in my head, like, and there's no way for me to sit down with somebody and through osmosis, like, give you everything I know in one shot. But the question is, like, how do you hook them just enough to keep them around to where down the road they have all this knowledge?
Right. I mean, I actually was on another podcast like a few weeks ago, and a question like that was asked to me, but like kind of, sort of, not really. But what I wanted to say is, for someone like when I interview new clients, right? I'm like, I try to dig and ask questions for like what they're passionate about, because like they want to work out, they want to look good, but like usually it's not their passion, right? Usually their passion is like their job or their like something, whatever, riding a bike every weekend. Like my one buddy loves rucking with his best friends every Friday. Like he is passionate for that. So we build the program around that, right? So it's like, what is this new guy? What is he like? Like he might not know. So we try to we dig it out. What did you do before? And like, that's how we build that consistency. Cause like every day he looks forward to this. He's like, if I'm sober today, I could do this today. I get to do this. And it could be just like, hey, I get to eat ground beef today. It could be, I get to work out. I get to go for a walk with my buddies in rehab, like whatever that could be. Right. And like that's a consistent thing that can keep coming up. And then you can be like, you can add in, I mean, there's a million things, right? But like finding the passion for other people, no matter what it is, you can go farther than just trying to live in miserableness.
Yeah. Well, Dom, it's been fun, man. Gonna wrap this up. Ben, any final thoughts?
I'm sad I missed the beginning.
That's all right. I'll come back.
I know.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah, thank you guys.
All right, that is it for this episode of Real Recovery Talk. Thank you for tuning in. In the end, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you can always reach us, info@realrecoverytalk.com. Again, that's info@realrecoverytalk.com. And ultimately, we want to help you turn your mess into your message. That is it. We will see y'all later.